Hello, Miner fans, and welcome to another UTEP athletics presentation. I'm John Teicher now, and even way back then, the voice of the UTEP Miners. The start of the 1988 football season was one of great anticipation and expectation for UTEP players, coaches, and fans. Entering his third season as the Miners head coach, Bob Stull and his staff had guided UTEP to 4 wins in 1986, the most since 1971, and then 7 more in 1987, the most in 20 years, and that equaled the total of the previous 4 seasons combined. Equipped with a veteran offensive line, accomplished, proven offensive skill talent, plus a rugged, opportunistic defensive unit, the pieces were all there for something special. Little did we know, however, the extent of what was to come. The 1988 Miners took El Paso on quite an exceptional journey, standing alone from all UTEP football teams past and since by winning a program record 10 games and by making its first bowl appearance since 1967 in the Independence Bowl against some guy named Favre. For their efforts, the 1988 football Miners have received their due as part of the 2023 UTEP Athletics Hall of Fame class. And now, 35 years removed, let me introduce the 1988 UTEP football student athletes in alphabetical order that have joined us to reminisce about that singular season. He was a senior tight end. He wore number 81, was the Miners' second leading receiver that year. From Hobbs, New Mexico, Arnie Adkisson. He was a sophomore wide receiver, wore number 86, was the Miners' leading receiver in 1988, went on to play in the NFL. From Corpus Christi, Reggie Barrett. He was a senior quarterback and team captain. He wore number 19, directed the Miners to 17 wins in a 2-year span. From Santa Ana, California, Pat Haggerty. He was a senior tight end, wore number 88, from Lockport, New York, Rob Hausler. He was a sophomore defensive end, wore number 46, from Carson, California, Falonico Iacopo. He was a junior linebacker, wore number 37, was one of 4 Miners with over 100 tackles. From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Doug Morgan. He was a senior offensive guard, wore number 72, from Yonkers, New York, Robert Pufall. He was a junior linebacker, wore number 45, the Miners' leading tackler in 1988, named first team All-WAC. From Torrance, California, Ken Sali. He was a junior wide receiver, wore number 4, also the Miners' top kick returner, prepped at Andrus High School in El Paso for the great Alan Sepkowitz, Clarence C.A. He was a senior center, wore number 55, a 2-time first team All-Western Athletic Conference honoree. From San Antonio, James Spady. He was a senior safety and also a team captain, wore number 9, named first team All-WAC. From Garland, Texas, Terry Walker. He was a junior safety, wore number 41. He led the Miners with 5 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. From Alief, Texas, Richie Wright. And hopefully we'll get head coach Bob Stull joining us before too long. The Miners head coach, a decade later, he returned to UTEP, spending the next 20 years as the Miners director of athletics, and is also an incoming member of the UTEP Athletics Hall of Fame. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to do this. And I thought I'd start out with the fact that, as I mentioned, the Miners had been building towards this, winning 4 times in 1986, including the last 2, 7 more in 1987. Guys, you had to feel pretty good about things heading into this 88 season. Who wants to get us started?
Hagsy, start it off.
All right. Yeah, I mean, we felt good. I mean, we had a good veteran team. We had some, great young talent, with Reggie and some other guys, and so, and the schedule kind of favored us too. And we kind of looked at that and we thought, hey, we got something, possibility to do something special, and things kind of came together, and we were able to do it. It was a lot of fun.
It's kind of a NFL-like schedule, at least during the regular season. You played 12 games in as many weeks. Do you remember that? How much of a grind was it as you got towards the end of the season, even though the Miners were winning certainly their share of games? Guys, any of you can jump in. Just go.
Yeah,
right
it wasn't a
ahead.
grind on me. So maybe the guys that it was a grind on, maybe they can talk about it.
I would say the only grind was, for whatever reason, we always had Wyoming in November. And I hated playing at 10 degrees, man. You get tackled up there, it feels like your bones are breaking.
All these Texas guys weren't used to that Wyoming cold.
No, I believe that might have been the coldest I've ever been in my entire life. And I mean, since then, before then it's the coldest I've ever been in my life.
Oh,
I don't think there was one extra piece of clothing left in the locker room. Half the guys walked out with anything they could find. They couldn't even move.
yeah. At
I
least
wasn't
it,
cold because I was running for my life the whole game.
hey, at least it was a close game.
I think the
That's
best
the
part
one.
of it was
Dirk, I was always asking
the
Dirk
whole
if I
part
could-
out with me and Coog.
I was always asking Dirk if I could call some plays, and he would never let me. And then we're getting beat by like 40 points, and it's like 3rd and 18 or 19. He looks at me, points at me like, "You call it. You wanted to call plays. Call this one."
John, as I mentioned earlier, I was a young guy. I was a young cat, going into that season. So the expectations, at least for me, was to make sure that I contributed at a high level and did everything that I could, within the role that I was given. And but by the time we got to that Wyoming game, a lot of you guys probably don't know this, but leading up to that game, I cut my finger prior to during the week of the game.
Oh no!
I had to get 6 stitches. I had to get six stitches. And Pat, of course, I wasn't gonna tell you that. So I didn't.
Yeah, I was going to throw it to you anyway.
But yeah, that was definitely one of the coldest games. That Wyoming game. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Guys,
Hey, Reggie, I could have played quarterback with you, man. Just throw it up there.
Hey!
hey, for you.
Hey, that's because he was always open. I was always clearing it out.
Yeah,
Right.
I was always open on the post. Here comes
CA always had my back.
I'm gonna throw it to my boy Arnie also, because he also had like golden hands. That guy could really catch the ball.
Oh yeah.
As Kevin Faulkner would say, I had deceptive slowness. So I was always open because the guys overplayed where I was going to be.
Hey, Arnie, just because we had to hold our blocks for 15 seconds for you just to cut across the middle meant nothing. You were money, buddy. You were money every time.
Arnie was doing stuff that you see all the time now with the tight ends that play like basketball players, where they just, just like box a guy out.
Yeah.
They box you out,
Really good
yeah.
at positioning.
That's right. Travis Kelce owes everything he does to
Right.
me.
Arnie knows everything.
You were Kelce before he was Kelce.
Okay. All right. Now, this is where the tall tales start.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce.
Hey, guys, for you offensive guys in particular, this was a particularly fast starting UTEP team in 1988. And I didn't even remember this. You scored on your first possession in each of the first 8 games of the season, and 11 of the first 13 games ultimately you would play, the Miners scored on their first possession of the game. Do you remember that? And what was it that led to you guys being able to start games so quickly?
I was afraid not to. I was afraid to make a mistake. I'm not gonna lie to you. I felt like we were coached well. I mean, all across the board. I think every position was coached well. Defense, offense. You as I go back and I think about it, but you didn't want to let your coach down. And the guys next to you. You didn't want to let any of those guys down. So I was afraid to make a mistake. I'll be honest with you. And when I did make a mistake, it was a big one. It was like, something that, nobody would ever want to do, because the little things were the things that mattered. And I felt like we had that in spades. The whole team did.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's probably why we were able to have so much success early in games, just because nobody wanted to let anybody down. It was really
I
important.
also think that the scheme, that Dirk was really smart, and
Oh,
Andy and all those guys, they
Yeah.
could scheme it up, and we had that, script,
Yeah.
and we were dialed in, man. And before they had a chance to adjust their defense, we were going down the field.
Yeah, we were already
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever,
DK
hey, James, whatever happened to your line coach? I don't remember.
there.
And by the way,
He won
I
a
think
few hot dog eating contests along the way.
Hey, you can Google him. He's probably doing commercials right now. So
and by the way, James just said he made a mistake. He never admitted to making a mistake his entire football career to any of
never
us.
did. No, I never made a mistake then. I made it 30 years later. Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes.
No, he said he was afraid to make a mistake. He didn't say he made a mistake.
That's a good
Afraid to
point.
make a
That's a good
mistake.
point. But I was watching YouTube, and they got a couple of our highlights or games or whatever on YouTube, and I watched the one where me and you, Hags, fumbled a snap.
Uh-huh.
Now it was your fault. 30 years later, it was still your fault.
I'll take it.
But I looked at that and I said, boy, that ball didn't come up. So I mean, I guess I admitted it now, but I won't go on record.
Yeah. DK, Dirk Cutter, they really simplified, a lot of it for us.
You bet.
I think Clarence will agree, from all in our receiver room, they were out. We were hammering with the film. They were testing us all the time, make sure that we knew what we were doing. And I just think that DK just did a good job of, calling plays and putting us all in the right position, to make some plays. And, we found everybody's role and niche within the offense. And as we grew, we kind of got explosive. We scored a lot of points. We was hitting big plays down the field, and everybody, we had a connection. We had, some continuity there. And of course, the offensive set that we had, James Spade, Poof, all them guys up front, there was a lot of experience up there. So for us as receivers, we just kind of plugged in and did what we did, and everything took care of itself. But it was, every game we got better and better.
I had forgotten how much Dirk scripted the first 15, 20 plays of the game.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like the
And
first two
I mean,
series.
so every first and second down, we kind of knew what the first two drives might look like in terms of first and second down on every play, and they were all designed well to handle the defense we were playing. That it definitely was a privilege to get to play with those coaches.
We
All
also
you
had
guys
an amazing mix of veteran players who had been through some stuff. Proof, and all you guys, y'all remember?
Oh, yeah.
Some dog days
y'all
in El
remember.
Paso in the early 80s.
And then, but we mixed that group of guys, that kind of senior leadership, with some guys like Reggie and CA, and those guys. I don't want to call you kids because y'all are grown men, but those guys were. They were exactly what we needed. I felt like and we got to a point where we had a really good mix of guys, and then you had guys like Pat who came from a JUCO, and we had a good mix of those. I believe
Saleh too. Ken.
Ken came from a JUCO. There were some other guys, and so I felt like we had a really good mix of teammates. To be honest with you, and that's a compliment, fellas. Teammates.
Hey, fellas, let's talk about team leadership a little bit. Again, James, as you mentioned, quite a few upperclassmen on this squad, complemented by some very talented younger players. But Pat, you were a captain. Terry Walker, you were a captain. Talk about the leadership on this 88 UTEP football team.
Well, for us on defense, I think we had some extremely talented guys, starting with our linebackers, defensive ends, and then we had a lot of guys that with experience in the secondary, as far as with Richie Wright and myself. And of course, we brought our corners along, and we all just played together like a band of brothers, with that leadership from Coach Church and Coach T-Lander, Coach Lattimore, Coach Flagel. I think they got us in positions with their game plan to make plays, and we believed in each other. It starts with a belief, and that was across the board, offense and defense. We all believed in each other and we played for each other. And you could tell on Saturday when we strapped it up on game day. So
Without a doubt. Don't forget about Hofer. Don't forget about Larry.
yes,
Larry did a great job.
yes,
Great job. But
absolutely.
to everybody's point, what you guys are saying, the teamwork that we had, I got to tell you, I loved all you guys. And from the day one that we were together, the seniors all the way through, and then the young mix of guys, we didn't want to let each other down. Just like you guys are saying, we couldn't let anybody down. We had to lead from the front, and you guys, we all played well together. We weren't going to give up for anybody, and we were so well prepared. There wasn't one thing we didn't know about the guy opposing us. We knew his tendencies. Coach Reed broke everything down for us through film study. Our technique was, I think, second to none. We were privileged to be coached by those men, and they treated us like men. They gave us that latitude to be ourselves, to be kind of outside the box every now and then.
Knuckleheads.
Where Coach Stoll would go, God damn it,
But you always cause that. You always cause that.
Hey, John.
Yeah, me and Coog definitely had our opportunities, and you were always upset that we'd step on your feet. It wasn't our fault that you were a little slow.
See, so everything wasn't rice and gravy. There was some stuff.
Hey,
I was a little bizzo.
Poop, I remember this time I was walking out of the weight room and you and Coog were giving Andy Reid just a bunch of crap, and they're all over him. And he walks away, he looks at me, and he goes, every single day. That's all he said. And I'm just like, he must have the patience of a saint.
Hey, Haggerty, I'm wondering how the heck you had command of that huddle.
Oh, I didn't. I did not. It was burning cats, man. It was. I remember, and like James would walk to the line of scrimmage, and I'd be like pushing in his back, like, get down, we got to go. The clock's moving. And James is like looking at me like, don't touch me, man. And he's like surveying the defense. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like, I'm trying to get the play out. And Coog's cracking jokes about some peanut vendor or something. It's chaos.
Between Poof and Coog, you didn't know where it was coming from next between them two. They always had it going.
How about the Thursday afternoon special teams walkthrough with the fat team?
Yes.
I forgot about that.
That's the man's team, and that was Fridays. It was the man's team. My God. But I will tell you, those were the best days. They were fun days. We were privileged to be with each other. And you guys are all near and dear in my heart. And like Clarence said, it's been a minute, but we're just picking up where we left off 35 years ago.
John, I'll say this.
Proud to be your friend.
John, I'll say this. Our defense was awesome. And I tell you this, I fed off a lot of their energy because they made a lot of big plays. T. Walking them,
yes, they did.
Doug, you guys, we believe it or not. I mean, and I'm just saying from my perspective, I fed off a lot of their energy. They made some big plays that got me fired up, make me want to, make big plays, and so it was. I think that whole team, just from an offensive, defensive perspective, we kind of meshed. Like James was saying, we just kind of meshed. We had the right pieces of guys. We had at the right time. They came together, and we got better every week. And our confidence grew every week. We practice, and we challenged each other in practice. Walking in one-on-one with the DBs and the receivers. I mean, it was.
Reggie, how about goal line? I mean, they don't do that anymore. Like that was like hardcore, real deal scrimmage, man. Like, I mean, you could hit the quarterback, they didn't care.
Oh yeah,
I remember.
Hey, Reg. Back then there wasn't no defensive receiver, was it?
No. It was inside run, 7-on-7, and everybody was laying people out.
Yeah, Eric Anderson said the hardest hit he had was me in practice one day. I hit him across the middle.
See, I don't know if you remember on was that opening week against was that Weber State?
Yeah.
I got the hell knocked out of me.
Hey, talk about goal line, Doug. We ran a scrimmage and Emilio Pittman. We ran the option. Me running the option. That was a bad idea to start with.
That's a bad idea.
Down the line of scrimmage, and they weren't supposed to hit the quarterback. And Pittman just came around the corner and lit me up. I mean, on my back, and all the offensive coaches are screaming, "Hey, no tackling, no tackling." And then Church came over and picked up Pittman. He goes, "Pitt, that was the greatest hit I've ever seen." He was like, patting him on the back, and I'm like,
Exactly. Stay away from my guy. Yeah.
yeah.
That's how they used to coach us how to do it back in Andrews High School in El Paso. So,
Hey, Reggie, I'm glad you brought up the defense, because obviously the offense got so much attention, understandably so, but it was an opportunistic defense. The Miners finished that season plus 18 in turnover margin, 35 takeaways that year, including 22 picks. Doug, talk about how opportunistic you and your guys were.
Well, it's funny. He was talking about Andy Reid and, stalling some of the coaching, but like Church was just, I don't know. He was like a guru with just like kind of tricks. Like it was, I mean, we did a ton of film study, and you had to know, like in this set on 3rd and 2 and this position in the game, like it got that specific. Like it got really granular in situations. And like he'd say, like, if you see this action going this way, and like I remember one play, I can't remember what game, but like the guard came around, and I remembered Church teaching me about that. And I just stayed home, and it was a reverse. It was just me and the guy, and I took him out of bounds, and Church jumped on me like, "Wow, you were really listening on films," like it's just like and then you'd run back to a spot. You wouldn't even look at the quarterback because he told you where to be on this action. And it was just all kind of little, like he'd see wide guys on the right and tight on the left. And you're like, I'd tell Ken, "It's coming this way, Ken." The quarterback would look at me like, "What the hell?" But he taught us all that stuff. Church, I mean, I was with Church 90% of the time, but he was a guru, man.
He's coming next month.
Oh, that's awesome. I'd love to see him.
His son-in-law
who
coaches.
always impressed me on defense, that Richie Wright, he had so many interceptions, and it was like, where did he come from? It was like, the invisible man. It wasn't like he was 6'5" or anything.
Yeah, Church would let us take chances though. Like he gave us he'd be like, "Hey, don't get crazy, but if you see something, an instinct, go for it." Like I used to get a lot of sacks just from, I was supposed to be covering the back, and the back was blocking. I'm like, screw it, I'll just go tackle a quarterback, But like somebody in the upstairs should have saw that and said, "Let's call a screen or something." We took a lot of chances, I should say. I think that's why Richie, was so successful. He played very instinctually, and Church led him. He didn't yell at him.
I don't mean to get all coachy on you, John, but it's easy to call plays when you have a defense that can turn the ball over. They can get turnovers like our defense did. You can call a play, take a risk, take a shot, have an empty first down because you're going to get bailed out by that defense. That's amazing.
You're right, James. Absolutely right.
Terry, talk about it. Richie had 5 picks, 2 pick sixes. Troy Reffett had a 97-yard pick 6. You had 4 picks that year yourself.
Again, we did a lot of film study, so we broke the teams down as far as their route running and their tendencies. So like Doug said, we had a lot of film study, and we just got out there and just kind of run the scenarios through our mind, as well as we could prepare for the games and everything. And then we just made plays when they presented themselves. So we had to be aggressive sometimes, and I think it paid off for us.
No, all you guys' points. We were coached unbelievably, and these gentlemen are top notch. Dirk was an incredible head NFL coach. Coach Reed, obviously, Flagel's there as well. We just had incredible coaching. They taught us how to be NFL players and to play at that level of sophistication of knowing where everybody's going to be. And we could be aggressive, to your guys' point, because we knew what the other guy was going to do before he did it.
Yeah,
especially after a pick or a turnover.
Yeah, I was going to say.
What was coming? That Reggie Barrett on that 9 route right after that.
Well, yeah, it's something that Terry said also. He said, the word aggressive, and I think on both sides of the ball, that's the way our coaches coached. Like, if we get a turnover, we're going for the end zone right away. We're going to go for the jugular. Take a chance on that pick. Don't play afraid. And you see, even now, you turn on a game, you can see like, oh, they're playing not to lose. And we never, ever did that. We were just attacking at all times on offense and defense.
that coaching
Hey,
staff.
we lost enough from the first few years. We were playing to lose. We lost enough.
Oh, you know it. We put our dues in.
That
But John,
coaching
you gotta-
staff, that coaching staff, guys, was so good that I'm going to mention a name that we haven't heard yet. And he went on to become an NFL head coach, and he was a grad assistant that year, Marty Morningweg.
Morning.
Yeah,
Yep.
No doubt.
amazing
Top
stuff.
to bottom. T to B.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
think
listen, John, one of the things that, and I want to bring this up before I forget it, because I'm getting a little old now. But one of the things that always compel me, and I live by this philosophy to this day, the sign in the locker room, from day one to the last day I walked out of there, tap it. Those who stay will be champions.
Yeah.
And that sign represented my philosophy in life, because we nutted it out during the darkest times when it was worse. When we would tell people, they'd say, "Hey, are you guys football players at UTEP?" "No, we're construction workers." No, we're just here. We don't know. But it was embodied in us that if we stayed, it would work out. And when Coach Stoll came in and that staff and gave us that opportunity, it gave us everything we needed. We had that desire. We wanted to win for each other. And it's just part of how we are. It's now become ingrained in our matrix. And I've taken that into my life moving forward. And I think everybody on this call and everybody we get to talk to has been successful. And it's a reason. We're
John,
good men,
everybody-
good fathers.
that team, and I'll share this, that, and again, I keep repeating, I was the younger one coming into this. So the history, I really didn't know too much about coming in, other than what the record was, the season before. And so I just appreciate the fact, the Stud actually gave me an opportunity, going into, my sophomore year, which is my sophomore camp. This is my sophomore year, coming out from my freshman year. And, I was just grateful. And to think about him giving me a chance, not really knowing how I was going to mesh into the offense and whatnot, I had to work really hard. And so it worked out really well. Even though I was one of the youngest one of the bunch, I worked really hard to try to contribute to this team, to do the best that I could to help everybody. But again, everybody around me, that offense that we had, Poop, that whole O-line, the veteran defense, Arnie, these guys were the staple of that team. I pretty much was along for the ride and just.
Except you were the best player on the team, probably.
Right. Very humble, Reggie.
All that, except you were the best player.
Yeah, I was. Hey, man. But I had a lot of, them veteran guys around me. Hey, that was the staple of the team, John.
Guys, I want to talk about one defensive player who obviously was a big impact player and was unable to join us on this call, and get your thoughts on, of course, Tony Tolbert, who went on and had such a terrific career in the NFL, largely with the Dallas Cowboys. Doug and Terry, you played with him on that side of the football. Your thoughts on what Tony meant to that football team?
I don't know, Terry, I'll go first. I don't know. It was like my first kind of opportunity to see a true like NFL guy, like all the time, professional, like all day, every day, like all business. Some of us used to mess around, stay out late, stuff like that. But I mean, that's what I heard. I never saw him out. I don't know what he did at night or whatever, but he was unbelievable player. There was just a funny story. We were playing Air Force that last game where we went to the bowl game, and they ran like a sweep on his side, got like 8 yards, and I didn't say anything. And then they ran this like dive play and got like 8 yards. And Tolbert's like, "Hey man, you got to be tougher in there. You got to hang in there more." Or whatever. I'm like, I go, "Screw you, man." I go, "You just had 8 yards on your." I go, "Who the hell are you?" Like, you're not my coach. And then I was watching him in the Super Bowl like 3 years later. It's like, oh, maybe he knew something. But he was awesome.
Hey guys, here's your head coach on speakerphone. We're going to try this and see if it works.
My internet went out 5 minutes before this started. Anyway, that one play you were talking about at the Air Force, Doug, interesting thing was the first year when we were there, we were beating Air Force in the last 2 minutes, and they were moving the ball down the field, and we were up by 1 point, I think, and they were on the 45-yard line. It was 4th and 8.
Yep.
And everybody said in the silent, "Oh, watch out for the draw on the screen." And so everybody rushed upfield thinking it's a pass, and they doubled down and handed it the fullback like in the regular option. And the guy ran for 15 yards. They ended up kicking the field goal the last play of the game to win.
Yeah.
Well, 2 years later, it was the same thing. It was 4th down, and they were on the 3-yard line where they right there at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And we were by 1 touchdown, and they called timeout. They ran the sideline. I told Tolbert, I said, if that tackle blocks down, you better fly because that fullback will hit his head on the goalpost because they're doubling down on the linebacker, you know, on the option stuff. And sure enough, Barry ran the same dang play.
That's amazing.
And Tolbert took kind of a half step the wrong way, but he dove and tackled him.
That's awesome.
And I told Fish the Bear, I said, you'd have got fired 2 years ago if you wouldn't have got that first down running the dive, and now you're running again. He just laughed.
Yeah. I just remember that we had nickel in it, like we had all DBs in there, and I remember they like shifted and went to like a wishbone or something, and everybody's looking at each other. That first game you were talking about, and you know, I was a sophomore, I think, and I should have called timeout, like if I was a senior or whatever, but we just let it ride.
They ran the same play.
Yeah,
you know,
because I had like 3 linemen block me at once. I'm like, oh, this isn't good.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Coach, I'll ask because I think everybody's a little worried. Are you a little nasally? It sounds like you're a little nasally. I can't tell. Never heard that before.
That's Poofall, by the way.
No, figures. You know, what was interesting, one of the interesting stories on that last year was, remember we were playing for the championship against Wyoming. There was only 17 bowl games then. Yeah. It wasn't like we have 40 now.
Yeah, you had to
only
win
17 bowl games, and we knew we probably had to win the conference to go to one. So we go up there, and Mr. Poofall and Kugler, Hans and Franz, they do their little act for ESPN the night before. It was freezing cold when we left El Paso, like 78 we got there, it was snowing. Anyway, long story short, as you know, we just got hammered. And so we came back home thinking, you know, we're out of bowl game business. And that's when we got a call from the Independence Bowl, said if you win the next game, there's only 2 teams that won 9 games this year, you and Southern Miss. If you win 9-9, we still had 2 left, we'll put you in Independence Bowl. So we went back home. I said, this is great. And so the interesting thing is we went no huddle that game. We scored every time we had the ball. Plus, Troy Reffert was the safety, and they were moving the ball into the end zone the one play. We always said, Troy, make a play. That's what Flagel used to say to him. Well, they threw a pass, he intercepted, and ran it 97 yards for a touchdown. So anyhow, we won that game. So they had sent the guy down from the Independence, the person I knew. And so we thought they had us on television saying that's where we're going to play Southern Miss and all that. And then that person from the Independence Bowl went home the next day. We were supposed to meet at 1 o'clock, still hadn't heard anything, no invitation. So I called him and he says, I just resigned from the board. I said, why? He said, Wake Forest just told Independence Bowl if they beat Appalachian State, that they'd take them but they would buy 20,000 seats. And so guaranteed selling because the bowl game was having a hard time at that time. And so they weren't making the invitation. So we were really hacked. I mean, I was going to let everybody have it, decide not to. And I said, if we win against Air Force, that'll be the most wins in the history of school. And we'll get ring. We'll do all those things anyhow. Just play, thinking that Wake Forest would beat App State. Well, in the middle of the fourth quarter down there, as you know, that they tied the game. And so after the game, I talked to Pat Hegarty, and those guys said, now, if they invite us, you still want to come? I mean, they really hacked us off. They said, hell yeah, we want to go. So anyhow, they tied the game, and because of that, we got to go to the bowl game. Otherwise, Wake Forest would have went. So it was really an interesting time. it was very difficult when we won that ninth game and wasn't invited right away.
Hey,
Bob, I worked at FCA with the head coach of Appalachian State, and he never let me forget that it was his tie with Wake Forest that let me play a bowl game my senior year.
Yeah,
I've been an Appalachian State fan ever since.
Same thing. He told me the same, remind me the same thing, you know. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I just remember that last game, that Air Force game, and you know, Sun Bowl seats 52, and they said the attendance was, you know, 50,547. I was like, BS. There were people up on the mountains that couldn't even get in the game.
They came late. They came late, Clarence. They did. And we wore all orange that day.
Right.
That was something else.
That was the most packed I saw the Sun Bowl.
Yeah.
Yes.
Poof, Poof, what did you look like in all orange? Huh?
I look like the Great Pumpkin. I just sat there and spun.
Poofall told me 35 years ago.
Another interesting game that year was Hawaii. Because Hawaii, I think, won 9 games that year. Bob Wagner was there. I mean, they were really good. Remember, they had the backfield on the goal line that all weighed like 310 pounds. All those Samoan guys lined up and went a power high down there. And the first year we went down to Hawaii, we were really structured. The day before on Friday, we practiced in the morning, and I gave them off. They could do anything they want to between 1 o'clock and 5, 3 hours. That was it. Well, in that 3 hours, we had like 10 guys that got sunburned. We had 3 guys get in a scooter, get in a wreck. That's how Scooter Menifee got his name. He got in a wreck in Hawaii.
Coach, let me tell you what Terry did. I never told you this.
And so we got beat that year, but then when we came back that last year, everybody was really focused. They said, okay, there's no going to the beach, there's no Scooter Menifees, we're not doing all that. We're going to really focus. And then if we win, we'll stay overnight and you guys can do what you want to do, which is really dangerous with you guys. So say, we'll just see you in the morning, but we did.
I did not sleep that night. I went right to the airport.
I don't know how we played football. I really don't.
Hey, Doug, we went out on a catamaran, Doug, before the game. Don't you remember?
I don't know what Coach is talking about. We had a lot of fun that trip.
We did. We were out on the catamaran. I'm probably the only one who didn't drink, Doug.
I was at a bar. It had like one of those pools that the people swam while you sat there, like the window.
That was Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah, that was Davy Jones' locker.
Our pictures were still there till they closed.
We were in that bar, and Hawaii was feeling good because they had just beaten Iowa or somebody like the week before.
They were 4-0.
We're drinking beers at the bar, and the guy goes, "Who are you guys?" And we're like, "Oh, we play football. We got a game tomorrow night." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, you're in here?" And I told him, I go, "We're gonna kick their ass, man." And he goes, "Yeah, good luck." I go, "I'll come in here and tell you about it." And I did. After the game, I went in there. I'm like, "Hey, man, you see the score?"
Oh, that's great.
You told him that before. You told him that before the Hawaii game.
Yeah, the night before. Yeah.
Oh.
And Reggie saved my ass. He caught like a 50-yard pass he caught like the last 2 inches of the ball with his hands. I don't know. I still don't know how that happened.
I always have my way with Hawaii.
Yeah.
Guys, watch that on YouTube.
Yeah. Guys, we've got about every position group on this call except running backs. And what an exceptional group that was with John Harvey and Eddie Dixon and Willie Fuller and the aforementioned Scooter Menifee. Talk about that group and how important they were to this football team.
I mean,
you couldn't have done anything vertically we did without John Harvey being able to open up this run. He was absolutely incredible.
Hey, John, when we went to that reunion, Pat was there. Like, we were watching the highlights of that year, and I thought it was Pat or Richie Wright or somebody. I just turned. I said, "Were we any good, or did we have John Harvey?"
Yeah,
like the highlights of him was unreal. Like his
he was amazing.
He was just a freak.
I just remember being coached to block for that guy. I mean, Andy told us to sustain our blocks, finish, get downfield if you can. Well, I took that to heart, but get downfield if you can, because you never know where this guy's going to end up at. Yeah. And I thought that was a great coaching point for that specific player.
Yeah.
But John,
Yeah.
but James, how could he stop how he did? What he did was Gale Sayers ish or Barry Sanders.
doubt,
Tony
no
Dorsett.
doubt.
He can stop on a dime.
What a talent.
Yeah.
What a talent. And then to have a guy like Willie Fuller back there who when John got hurt, step up and make a difference like he did.
Yeah. And then Eddie and Scooter, I mean,
Eddie Block and
Yeah. Oh,
Scooter. You know, we haven't even talked about our
before the first game, and he had an agent then telling him he can't get hurt, you know, and stuff. But Willie stepped in and did a great job, and Scooter did. Of course, when John was in there, he's exceptional. The year before, he had like 1,300 yards and caught like 50 passes. I mean, his junior year was really exceptional. It really was. He was really a great natural talent. I mean, he could catch a ball behind him and make you miss, you know, the safety miss. And one-on-one, you just couldn't tackle him, as you know. He was exceptional.
And most people forget that when I had my career game in '87 at Utah, that John Harvey rushed for over 200 yards in that game.
Did he really?
We had 400 yards of offense between me and him.
Arnie, did you say career game in Utah?
I did.
You also had a career game in New Mexico. 10 catches, over 200 yards. Are you kidding
That was
me?
Utah. That was Utah.
At New Mexico, it was Utah?
It was Utah in '87. Yeah.
I was
Oh,
like, man.
Hey, John, one more thing with Harvey. Like in practice, the dumbest things I ever did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go against the best for this pass drill. I'm going to go against John. And, you know, if I'm going to maybe make it to the NFL, I better learn how to cover guys like this. And he looked up at me and he just did that like, ha. Like, okay, like, good luck, dude. And then he like kind of leaned one way. I took like a step and he was like 7 yards to my right. And like Haggerty or whoever threw it to him like wide open. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, never covered him in a drill again.
He had the best limp leg I've ever seen. Best limp leg I've ever seen.
Yeah, right.
Hey, what did he run that day? He ran like a 4.3 and he finished for the pros, right? Or
He didn't even
finished the
warm
last
up.
10 yards backwards.
He didn't even warm up.
No.
Like he walked out there, he pulled off his
He didn't
shoes.
tie his shoes. Remember his shoes were
Right.
untied. Yeah.
Shoes were open.
Hey, he made Mike Ward look good. And God rest his soul, Mike Ward. But he made Wardo look like a pro coach.
Yeah, man, he was such a talent.
Yeah,
And, you know, you think about guys, you know, working and getting in the weight room. I don't remember Harv doing anything but like lacing up the shoes and going, you know?
Never. No, he would give Tobe fits about it. Tobe would be so mad about not working out. Oh my God.
John Harvey probably would have got the coolest guy on the team award if there was one. This guy just epitomized cool, you know. But again, he was one of the upperclassmen guys when I coming in, CA and all these boys. You know, I had to earn my way.
You did.
You
Don't
did.
you worry about that. You did.
You earned it
You
plenty.
sure did.
Totally.
Guys, it
I
was
think everybody made a difference for everyone.
Absolutely.
another one that's not on the call today, guys, but obviously he had quite the year. In fact, he was an All-American and then went on and did some great work in the NFL. Chris Jackie, talk about Chris and the year he had.
Yeah, Chris had 49 straight extra points, and I think he was 23 out of 25 field goals. Yes, pretty good.
Yeah, Dirk used to tell me, Dirk would say, hey,
you know, the 40-yard line, you're going to score something. You know, that was the beauty of it. You could try some other plays because you weren't worried. You're always going to score something. I mean, he would kick that ball. He was an unbelievable player, and he played in the NFL for a bunch of years. You know, how many years did he play? I can't remember, but it was quite a few.
Yeah, at least 12. But hey, John, that's another guy that was a pro all day, every day. Like he'd work out just his legs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and
his upper body looked like a little kid. His legs were like tree trunks.
yeah, and he was kicking off the
He was like Robert Newhouse from the waist down.
Yeah. And he would kick off the grass like in like the summer before. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, practicing for the NFL, man.
Yep. Yeah.
He's incredible.
Simple.
He was when you see these guys today, and they're like, "Well, he's from the 20. He's on the 25. I don't know if he's going to make it." Jackie, you never. Once you were inside the 40-yard line, you knew he was money.
Yeah,
There was no doubt in our mind.
Yep.
Yeah, he was an athlete as a kicker. You know, the guy would play golf like twice a year and shoot in the low 80s. He could do just about anything with a soccer ball. I mean, it was fun to play around. You know, he and I would go out and play all those games before practice, trying to do, you know, coffin corners and kick field goals and drop kicks. And it's just unbelievable to see Chris and the talent he had.
I'm listening to Arnie. I don't know if y'all hear this. I feel like he's a little bitter because maybe Chris beat him on the golf course.
Chris hated golf. And Chris's dad, you guys may remember Ed. Ed loved golf. And so Ed and I would go play golf and Chris would stay home usually.
Okay.
Well, one thing for sure.
Arnie, what people would forget is that you were a punter too. So you were doing some of that special team stuff in practice, weren't you?
There was a little bit of emergency to that.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, Ernie was the emergency. He was emergency. That was if Chris, Jackie, and everybody else was sick in the hospital or couldn't do nothing, then Ernie, then they throw Arnie back there. But it was refreshing to know that if we had bad field position, we backed up maybe the 15-yard line. We had to start one of them long drives. It was refreshing to know you had Chris, Jackie back there. If we get across that 50-yard line, maybe around that 45, the plus 45, we would probably good 3 points.
Yes, he was money.
Yep,
he was.
Fellas.
So what y'all may not know, sorry, John, what y'all may not know is Arnie was a punter at Hobbs in high school. And when I was at Andrews, we drove up to Hobbs in Mexico. And I saw him punt. I'm like, that's the biggest damn punter I ever saw in my life.
Fellas, talk about playing in the Sun Bowl Stadium before the great football fans of El Paso. Not a single crowd that year, understandably under 30,000. Talk about what it was like to play in the Sun Bowl.
It's an incredible setting. First of all, I mean, it's just a beautiful place to get to play. Once Asarco stopped pumping smelting copper, it was a really good place to play too from an air standpoint.
Yeah.
But I mean, particularly, I mean, we had diehard fans all the time. I think, you know, somebody like Maynard Haddad or some of those guys who loved UTEP football.
Just passed away in the last year.
I know. I went and saw him a couple of years ago and just sat at the car wash and chatted for like an hour. He was in poor health then.
Yeah.
The fans in El Paso, particularly those last few years, but 88 especially, embraced what we did as a team. It was fun to play games. It was fun to have crowd noise that actually affected the other team the way we experienced it at BYU or some of these other places.
How about the wave? I mean, we got the wave going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they were just happy, I think. You know, they're been around for so long and didn't have much to root for. And they were just so happy we were winning. They were just, it was just infectious.
Harry, did that Sun Bowl crowd help you guys on defense?
Oh, absolutely. We fed off the crowd. And I think it made me play harder and everything. I know, hey, everybody's watching us. It's time to go make some plays now. And so Doug probably feels the same way. And that energy just took us to the next level as well.
Yeah, you can't recreate that, man. I miss that feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Terry, I don't know if you remember our sophomore year. Something was, I can't remember who we were playing, but it was late in the season, next to the last game of the season. And we were counting the people in the stands. So we saw it go from that to what it was our senior year. And I'm telling you, I think that fans in El Paso just wanted to be associated with a winner.
Yeah,
and once we started winning, I mean, maybe they believed before that or something like that. But it made for a great combination.
James, what was it like to be part of a turnaround like that?
Amazing. Because I remember the year we won 4 games. I felt like we were going to be champions. It was kind of what Pufal said. We believed in that sign that was in the locker room. If you stick around, you're going to be champions. And so we won 4 games, beat Colorado State and Utah, somebody at the end of the year. And I thought, man, next year we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And it worked out exactly that way. So I'm glad I didn't go down the street to New Mexico State, which I was about to do at one point. I'm glad I didn't go down there. I'm glad I didn't quit the game or anything, because there were some days, boy, I tell you. And we had practice. Y'all remember we used to count the heat waves
to the top of the uprights
that would rise up off the turf, and they would go. And we didn't practice at Kid Field. We practiced in the sun.
On the carpet, on the old school carpet.
On the old carpet, yeah.
Right.
It was
The
hot.
cardboard. It wasn't carpet. It was cardboard.
Right.
Yeah, it was hot.
I got the knee scopes to prove it.
Yes, sir. It was hot. Terry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing to have that kind of turnaround, and I'll be honest with you, like no offense to anybody that left our team or whatever, but some of the guys that defected, that took off, that didn't stick around, it was kind of the best thing to happen, because we were able to make room for guys like Reggie, some of those younger guys that came in and made kind of made our team. Because we had a good nucleus, and then we had younger guys coming in, stepping in, and filling some roles that were necessary. And boy, again, it feels good when you can count on this guy next to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Arnie, as a senior, what was it like to be part of that turnaround?
It was like Spady said, it was unbelievable. I mean, when I tell the story, I usually talk about how our first year, my redshirt freshman year, we were 2-9, and then we improved to 1-11 the next year. But we beat BYU, so it was an improvement. But still, to go home on a weekend, to live close enough to drive home on a weekend if I wasn't on the travel squad, and to have people who are playing at places that are winning football games, so teammates from high school, it was tough. And so absolutely, I think to see particularly the group of guys that when we were all freshmen together, Poof and Spady and that group of guys, that when we came in and suffered through the challenges of those first couple of seasons, and then get to have end on 2 winning seasons and go to the first bowl game and since '69 or whatever for UTEP, it's still one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me in my life, to get to play with these guys and experience that.
John, let me just say this. Yeah, John, I'll just say this. I'm just happy for a lot of those upperclassmen guys, Arnie, Poof, James, Richie, all you guys, Doug, Clarence. I didn't, of course, again, I was a younger guy that came in, and I didn't experience the years prior to that. I came in hungry, and, coming off of a successful high school career, with a big chip on my shoulder, with some hefty goals that I wanted to reach. And it was a slow start to it, my freshman year, but I just, I appreciate, Coach Stull and Dirk and all those guys that gave me an opportunity going into my sophomore year. But I'm just happy for you guys to be able to experience what y'all did. And James, good thing you did stick around, man, because that '88 season was a heck of a season. And it wouldn't have been the same without everybody that, that's on this call and that was on that team. Arnie, you went in our receiver room, but you obviously was a receiver. And,
a receiver trapped in a lineman's body.
Yeah. Exactly. You probably running like a 5'6" 40. We know that. It's okay. But
I usually tell people that I ran a 4.5 30.
Hey, I'm glad you stuck around too, Arnie.
Arnie got open all the time.
Always open.
All the time.
Every play.
But if you're not around like you were, if you're not one of my brothers, I don't know who marries me, and I don't know if I'd still be married.
Man, Barbara's an amazing woman. You married well. It had nothing to do with the guy that officiated your wedding.
Barbara is an amazing woman, but I think you had the glue. You stuck that glue to it.
That's amazing.
Hey, James, he told your wife, he said, hey, he's probably not the best looking thing, but stick around. He's a good guy. Just hang in there.
Now, Reggie, why you got to get on the thing and lie?
Just hang in there, baby.
My God.
Fellas, let's talk about some of the games. And the Miners opened at home, beat Mankato State and then Weber State, and then took control of both games in the first half. Pat, the season's first possession, you remember what happened?
Yeah, actually, when you said that earlier, I remember. Yeah, I was 1 for 1.
Yeah.
For 60 yards and a touchdown. And David Flores said to me, he goes, "Hey man, you're the highest rated quarterback in America." And I said, "Yeah, that's true, but it can only go down from here, you know."
And who caught that 69-yard touchdown
Oh,
pass?
69. Was it Reggie? Or was it
Was
Clarence?
it Reggie? I don't know. Reggie, was it you?
You guys should remember that. I was just in my memory, it's just a beautiful ball going through the air, and some anonymous guy on the other end catches it and runs.
At least if it was 69 yards, at least we know it wasn't Billy Ross.
Yeah.
I think it was.
How about Billy R catching strays? What's up with that?
Hey, Reg, what do you remember about that play?
That was the first game of the season. Obviously, my opening campaign for first time starting as a sophomore, and it was the start of what my season was. And again, we had explosive plays from start to the end, and that game actually kind of set the tone, if you will, for what we would be able to do consistently throughout the season. And that's what I remember. I mean,
John,
we would hit.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say on that play, Reggie, I remember Dirk telling me during the week, because it was a returning safety for the other team. And he had a tendency to bite on play action. And Dirk said, "We're running play action." He goes, "If this guy sets his feet for a millisecond, throw it up top, because he cannot get back to catch Reggie. There's no way." Yeah. And I remember I faked to Harvey, and I looked at the guy, and he had his feet just parallel, just looking at the line of scrimmage. And I'm like, "You're done, dude." And I just threw it right over his head.
And again, it's that game, John, set the tone.
Yeah.
That game set the tone.
Week 3 of the season, guys. First Western Athletic Conference game was at BYU, 64,000 in that incredible setting. The Miners would fall in that game. Their first of only 3 losses that year, 31-27. Did you guys see that as kind of a missed opportunity?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, we had
Let them off the hook.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I'll be back in about 10 minutes, John. I'm going to go cry in the corner, which I do every night. Thinking about that.
Oh, we should have won that one.
We definitely should have won.
Sure. Yeah.
Let them off the hook.
I mean, that was me too, man. I think I threw 3 picks in the second half. In the first half, we had John Harvey on a wheel route up the sideline. He's wide open. And I threw it, I think maybe 25 yards over his head for no reason whatsoever, other than just like adrenaline. So yeah, there was definitely some missed opportunities there.
Well, that last play, that 4th down, Terry remembers. Terry, do you remember Church calling that weird defense that we never got all week? Like we always screwed it up. And it was like cover 6. Like, I mean, we honestly were like, oh yeah, kind of. You remember that?
Some type of cover 6, something I recall.
Yeah, and I remember I was supposed to take Ken's drop. He was supposed to take Tolbert's drop, or whatever. Somebody was supposed to. It was like real confusing. And I'm going to Ken's drop, and I look back. This running back's running right where I was, and whoever was on the line on the other side didn't take my drop. And I'm like, all right, this isn't good. So I just turned and ran with the guy, and it was 4th down. They just threw it up, and I skimmed the ball with my finger, and the kid caught it in the back, and that was like 4th down. And that just, I still have nightmares about it.
That's when we put
that game, John, we hit them in the mouth early in the first half. So we're leading at the half. I recall. And it's close, but we're still leading. We got the game in a position. We were able to do what we want to do offensively. And we misfired here and there. But for the most part, we knew that we could make the plays that we needed to make in order to win that game. But something happened in the second half. It was some misplays here and there, but it was definitely a missed opportunity that stung.
I thought they were giving up when they brought in Ty Detmer. I'm like, who's this little skinny kid? They're down by 10 with like 6 minutes left. I'm like, they're throwing in the towel. and then he just started like
Won the
doing
Heisman.
Ty Detmer things, man.
Didn't he win the Heisman?
I think so.
Yeah, he did.
So
By campaign, Doug. They had a big, huge campaign for him. I think he was same year was me, and they had billboards all over the place. And I told him, I'm not voting for your ass.
Guys, next to New Mexico State, was BYU your least favorite opponent to play in a minor uniform?
I hated BYU way more than New Mexico State.
Oh yeah, New Mexico State was a rivalry game, and that was, I mean, it was big, but there was just an absolute hatred and detest of BYU.
Oh, for sure.
Still hate them to this day.
Exactly.
New Mexico State was geography.
Right.
Yeah.
BYU was our rivals.
Yeah, but that was about all. But you just despise BYU. And I will tell you, one of the best moments as a father, my daughter hit a home run off BYU in a regional, NCAA regional. I was like, yeah.
There you
Take
go.
that, BYU.
And you
My
gotta live for those
freaking
kids, man.
neighbor was a Mormon and went to BYU, and I used to persecute him personally.
John, the moment I stepped the moment I stepped foot in El Paso as a freshman, they let it be known. Everybody let it be known that BYU was the most hated team in the conference, at least from our perspective in El Paso. And I knew that from jump. So it was no
In
no
all the
question.
sports.
In all the sports.
Not just football, in all the sports.
But
Yeah.
that was just by them telling me. But when you play them, that's when you realize and you know why.
They
Yeah.
make you mad. They said stuff to you. They make
Dirty
you mad.
players.
Oh,
And
They would the student body threw tortillas at us from the stands.
I remember
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
snowball.
Our true
always-
freshman year.
The fans were horrible.
So the
Yeah.
next week, there's another road game, and you guys bounce back, winning at Tulsa. Terry, you had a pick in that game. Doug, you had a big game that day with 16 tackles. What do you remember about that Tulsa game?
I remember Dennis Bird was on that team. He was a first
Yep.
pick.
Yep.
I met him after the game. Kid from Pittsburgh came up to me after the game. That was kind of cool. But yeah, it's just I think that was like an interesting game. Like we were out of conference. We didn't win many out of conference games, I don't think. Especially Division I, right? Was there like a
How
record?
about Mankato State? Teams like that.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying, when was the last? There was something about our first D1 win out of conference on the road.
On the road, yeah.
It was like
yeah.
80 years or some ridiculous thing. I just remember that being a big game. Yeah.
Weirdest town ever, right? There was not a soul on the streets all day.
Yeah, it was like a
because
ghost
the stadium
town.
was packed.
Well, we stayed overnight though.
Yeah.
Well, I was at a frat party. It was pretty good.
I swear to God.
Oh my
I'm
God.
watching film.
Football's trying to be shy. He probably was at the
No.
frat party with you, Doug.
Pretty sure. he was.
I'm in my room watching film, and this kid is in the freaking frat party. But he played well. What can you say?
Right.
Watching what kind of film, though? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Easy, RD.
Arnie getting blue all of a sudden. Jeez. What happened to him?
Guys, it was back to the WAC the next week at home, more than 40,000 in the Sun Bowl. The Miners and the Utah Utes, almost 1,200 yards combined between the two teams in that game. Scott Mitchell, you remember the left-handed quarterback for Utah? He's probably still icing his arm. He put the ball in the air 63. Patty put the ball in the air 63 times in that game. 63 times.
Wow.
He couldn't run on us.
Hey, but all I got to say is scoreboard, Scott Mitchell.
Scoreboard,
Scoreboard, man.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, John, that was a shootout. That game was a shootout. And Pat Haggerty was on the money all day.
I think he threw one pick. Didn't you throw one pick? Because I made a tackle in the open field, and Reed commented what a hell of a tackle it was.
So I think that game was the game where, and I think you just said it was like 40,000 folks. I think that was the first game where we were like, damn, there's a lot of people in here. You know, so we fed off that crowd that game.
Gary, how tired were you guys after the game? 63 pass attempts.
Exhausted. We were just like, man, every play is a pass play. It was like we were totally exhausted. I was.
Doug, how about you?
I just remember like I think I don't know how many offensive plays they had because they would grade us every game, and you'd get a plus, a minus, or an S. You know, like and then it was some ridiculous amount of plays they had. I remember it was like 120 offensive plays, or I don't remember, but I just remember being on the field a lot.
Bob, that was whack. That was whack football at its finest, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Jim Foster was there, and he was doing some of that funky stuff too. You know, like I said, he threw it every down. It was totally a whack game for sure.
Yeah.
You guys talked about that Hawaii game, and that was the very next week at Aloha Stadium. 50,000 fans in attendance. Once again, over 1,000 combined yards between the two teams. Pat, you threw for 4 touchdowns, or actually had 4 touchdowns. You actually recovered a fumble.
Yeah,
a touchdown in that game, and Reggie, you had a huge game, 9 catches, 177 yards.
I remember that.
yeah, it was fun. I remember during the game, we went deep, and then we were running these out routes, and their linebackers couldn't get underneath them, and we kept on running it, and their coach was screaming at their players, "Don't you understand? He's gonna throw it to that guy again." It was just we just frustrated them so badly. It was a lot of fun.
Hey Pat, was that the game they had to throw back to you in the end zone for?
No, I think that was Colorado State.
Was that Colorado State? Okay, I couldn't remember when that was.
That's when Harvey went over the top, like to score on the goal line, and the guy put his helmet on the ball and it just popped loose, and it just fell into my hands. Like the non-athlete somehow found a way around the end.
John, by that time, you know, we're in a groove by now, and so as a receiving group, we've got this rapport that's kind of that's going now. So we know who we are, and we know what we're capable of, coming off of a big win with the Utah game, and now this game with Hawaii was just one of those games for me that just was everything was golden, and we had to put up a lot of points, obviously, because even they wouldn't quit. You know, even when we were up maybe a couple of scores or what have you, but they still kind of, you know, wouldn't just give it up. But in that Hawaii game, I mean, we again, Pat Haggerty was on top of it. We couldn't miss. Let's just put
Clarence,
it that way.
I still feel bad, man. I missed you at least on one crossing route in that game. It was so bad. You were running completely wide open. And I threw like 4 yards.
I was clearing it out for Reg.
Oh my God.
And I kudos to CA. He was the fastest. He was arguably the fastest on the team. But CA would always clear it out for me, and I would come underneath on the underneath with the square end, or I'm hitting it on top of the post when he's hitting it with the quick slant. So that was my guy.
I'll tell you what, though, I think the thing that really got us going in that Hawaii game was, I don't know if y'all remember, but they had their band, and they playing the theme of Hawaii 5-0. We were like, oh, it's on now.
Like, oh, you're not going to play that thing?
That was before the game. Absolutely.
I remember that, Clarence. That's crazy you remember it like that.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like, oh, it's on. We're going to town on these boys.
Well, they had billboards all over town. Hawaii 5-0. They were predicting to beat us. You know.
Yeah, they had those small DBs out there. I don't know if you remember that. They had some smaller DBs out there, and we just kind of abused them a little bit. We probably Hey,
They
we
didn't
probably
have no
hit them.
smaller defensive linemen. I know that.
No,
They don't. Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't Noga on the team then?
Yes, Al Noga.
one of the brothers it was
I
either
thought he
Al
was
Noga
on
was-
the year before.
No, then
Yeah,
it
but
was
Pete-
his cousin.
was either Pete or Al, but we had them. There was still one left
Maybe.
on the team.
It might have been Pete.
But I will tell you, come on, we did as a unit, as an offensive line, we didn't feel like there was anybody we couldn't block,
No,
especially the middle three.
no.
We felt like we were.
I'm
were
not sure
in
Dean
sync.
Woodall felt that all the time.
Oh, come on. Come
He did a great job.
Don't forget Gabbard. Was he in there?
Yeah,
Gabbard.
Russ and Gabbard.
Steve Casper.
Terry Walker had a pick. Terry Walker had a pick in that game.
He had two of them.
Yeah,
You had
that's
two
right.
picks. You had two picks.
I know. I remember he had one late.
And stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, Scooter had a good game too. Yes.
Hell,
Why'd
OT
you step
had
out of bounds,
his
Terry?
first pick in that game. Yep.
Hey, Clarence, the one thing I wanted to bring up, obviously we're talking about you as part of that receiving core, but you were the Miners' primary kick returner all year long. Talk about that.
Oh man, it was I tell you what, the hardest I've ever been hit was on one of them kickoff returns. Just full on, full blast. And it seemed like everybody's kickoff team was one kicker and 11 linebackers or 10 linebackers. So, but it was a blast getting that ball and just, turning it on all the speed, 4.3, 4.2, whatever I was running back in the day, and just bringing it up the middle, giving us that field position. So
The next week after the Hawaii game, as you guys brought up, was Colorado State. 45,000 plus that night, fellas, in the Sun Bowl. It was only 13-7 at the half. The Miners cruised in the second half to win it 34-14. Doug, you had a pick in that game. You remember it?
Which game?
Colorado State. You had a pick in that game.
Was it at Sun Bowl?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? I got a sprained ankle against Hawaii, and I wasn't supposed to play that game. And I started feeling good. I was just like, you know what, coach? I think I'm good. And he still didn't put me into like the second quarter. And it was like my first play in, and I was supposed to like cover the back and not look back. And I just kind of took a quick look, and the ball was right there, and I just kind of reacted to it. But again, letting us do our own thing a little bit, not really what you're supposed to do, but you took chances.
Hey, Poof, someone
Yes.
you know well also had a pick in that game.
I was about to say Tommy Costello.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
a big night. That ball, I was so proud of him. It was just an incredible moment. I'll never forget it. We came off the sideline cheering. I was just incredible watching him have that pick. Just incredible.
The next week was New Mexico up in Albuquerque. And, I would assume you guys agree with me that was always a rivalry at that time. And the Miners blew the Lobos off the field that day at University Field, 37-0.
Yep.
Miners allowed only 185 total yards, just 85 rushing yards in that game. And Reg, you and Arnie both had touchdown receptions in that game.
Yeah, by then we're rolling. By this time of the season, I'm actually in a groove. I'm locked into what our offensive sets are and what we're doing. I'm hitting big plays, for us down the field consistently throughout the weeks. And so that game right there was just another one. I mean, we felt like New Mexico was a team that probably shouldn't even been on the field with us.
Hey, Reg,
in my mind.
Reg, wasn't that the first time they ever won there or something like that? Like, it was some record. Like, I don't think UTEP had ever won in Albuquerque or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably another one of those where it was, 25, 30 years prior.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Arnie, what do you remember about your touchdown in that game?
Absolutely nothing. I'm sure Pat threw it and put it right on the money. I'm going to guess it was a third down and close to the 10-yard line. So,
But already saying
Why
he had a
choice?
lot of touchdowns.
Third
He
and
can't
9, why
remember.
choice?
Harry, how important was it to get the shutout in that game once you knew, obviously, that you were going to win the game?
I think it's a big moment for us because, again, our defense was clicking on all cylinders as well as the offense, and I think we just stepped up and just made the plays we need to do to stop them from getting any momentum and trying to even score. So,
And then the very next
we
week,
pretty much shut them down.
Yep. The very next week was the NMSU game, the Battle of I-10, which typically is played or has been played or had been played early in the season. This year it was well into the season at Aggie Memorial Stadium, more than 30,000 there. It was just a 14-9 game at halftime, and then the Miners took control in the second half, won that game 42-9. What do you remember about that game, guys?
I remember getting interviewed for the game, and Coug was trying. Coach told us that we need to be serious and don't take anybody for granted. And so we're giving an interview. I think it was it Al? Who was giving it? I forget who it was, but Coug is standing there. We're talking, and he has these big white sunglasses on. And with also this windshield wiper would start talking. He hit the button, and the windshield wiper would start going as he's talking. And he's deadpan serious. And it was just classic Coug. That was the breaker that game. That was unbelievable.
I remember in that game that we designed a play specifically for Bill Ross. And it was like a smash route where he's going to go 5 yards down and then come in. And it was 4th and 5, and we're going to go for it. So this is Bill's time to shine. We call the play. I look over to Bill to throw it to him. He slips on his cut and goes down. He's out. So I just kind of reared back and I threw it to Hausler, I think. But I was just like, Bill, you had your one shot, dude.
There's two things I remember about that game. One, there was a pass. It was in the second half. It was Y read, and I broke to the post route, and Pat threw the ball, and I had to dive to catch it. And some sideline photographer got a great photograph of it. And Dirk brought me the photo a couple of weeks later. He said, I didn't know a guy this fat could get that parallel to the ground. But what I remember most about that game is that Bob, if Bob's still listening, Bob put my brother in and called a play where we were supposed to double team the defensive tackle. And my granddad, who passed away about 6 months later, was in the stands. And I'll always be a special thing.
Bob,
day, my brother and I were together on the field in college.
Bob, do you remember that?
That's incredible,
I
Arnie.
didn't hear completely what he said about that. What did he say? I'm sorry.
He talked about you putting Darren, his brother Darren, his younger brother, I think was a freshman that year, into the game. So Arnie and Darren were able to play together for the first time as Miners.
Yeah, I don't quite remember that, but it sounds good. It sounds good.
maybe Andy did it.
It had to be Coach Reed. Coach was too busy.
I remember more about the game leading up to the game than the actual game itself. I just knew watching film, we supposed to whoop them like none other. And of course, by this time of the season, I mean, we're rolling, we're kind of in a groove right now. So we anticipate winning this game. And and then we get there and it's like leading up to the game, the coach is like, this game is real serious. You can't take this game for granted. We've got to win this game. And I'm like, Coach, I'm looking at what we're seeing on film, like, we got this.
What was it always fun to play at Aggie Memorial Stadium? Because obviously there were always a lot of Miner fans in attendance there. In fact, that day, probably I would assume that there were more Miner fans than Aggie fans in attendance.
Yeah, there definitely were.
I can't speak for the rest of you guys, but I got nothing out of it.
I agree with you. I hated playing there. I couldn't stand them, but didn't think much of their plays.
I really don't think much of New Mexico State. I would rather play New Mexico twice than to play New Mexico State any.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Not to me, not to sound cocky, John, but New Mexico State meant nothing to me.
Okay, that's interesting.
I just knew that what I saw on film and what Coach and them prepared us for, they were about to get it.
Bob, I know as the head coach, though, you heard about New Mexico State a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, and the coach who was there when we were there, I can't remember his name, but he was real kind of mouthy and braggy and talking about all the stuff they're going to do and really, created a situation where, okay, we're going to talk about it. Let's see how we play that, because he was really full of it. He really was. And so there was more of a personal thing for the coaches because the way their head coach and their staff reacted. But, we took care of I remember there's a picture, there's a photograph. I think it's either Ken Sully or
it is. It's Ken,
the quarterback, and the quarterback's feet.
Yeah,
completely off the ground. Going
but I think that was the coach. I think that was the '87 year.
In the air.
I think that was the '87 season that he knocked the guy off clean off. He was horizontal, 3 feet off the ground.
And they made a program cover off of it for the 88.
Yeah, that was '87. That was up in our weight room.
The very next week was the Wyoming game. You guys alluded to it already.
Welcome to 72-20.
Yeah, you talked about, you talked about how cold it was. Actually, the air temperature that day, guys, at kickoff, you might be surprised to know it was 42 degrees, but there was a north wind of 20 miles per hour. And obviously that made it as cold as it felt.
That was a lot colder than 42 degrees.
It sure did.
Most of us old linemen went out without sleeves on, James. You might have had some sleeves and a puffy bubble jacket and some leg warmers.
I had all that. I had the thing around.
I just remember trying to figure out if I could get those chemical hand warmers inside my gloves.
The highlight of the game was Krufall and Kugler doing their Hans and Franz for ESPN. That was the highlight for that week.
It was CBS Sports, and you should have let it air. You know what Reed said, right? He goes, "You guys are going to get me fired."
Told those guys, "You guys are trying to get me fired."
Exactly. That's what Andy said.
Yeah.
The night before the game, John, there was a huge snowstorm. I remember that.
It's called the blizzard.
Yeah, it was a blizzard. The night before the game, there's a blizzard. Now, I'm from South Texas, and I've never seen anything like that. So when I saw that, I'm on the horn calling my mama. I'm telling them, it's free. It's a snowstorm out here. We got a game tomorrow. And they had the field was completely iced over. They had to get I remember they telling us they had to get a diesel or some truck or whatever just to kind of clear the ice off the field so we can play the next day. And of course, I told y'all before this started, I cut my finger during the week before the game and had to get 6 stitches. And so the gloves that I wore where the finger was the finger that I had injured, I had one of the gloves that was kind of cut out so my finger could get through there because it was so big so that I could probably catch. But needless to say, it didn't work.
Nothing worked that day, Reg. Nothing worked.
I was worthless. I don't even know if Coach Stoll know about that to this day. If he remembers that, when they found out about it, to be honest, I cut my finger at the house. I couldn't cook worth the shit, and I was trying to cook some. I'm trying to cook some breakfast in my apartment, and that's how I cut my finger, and ended up having to get 6 stitches. Yeah, it was bad, man. But I didn't say anything about it. I didn't want to alarm everybody about it.
Fellas, what was the feeling after that game? When you left the field, what was the feeling when you left the field?
I had a feeling that we had just lost the WAC championship. I didn't think the season was over.
Yeah.
I didn't think the season was over. It's just that I wanted a WAC ring more than anything. That's watching, right, James? Watching all those basketball players, Arnie, right? When we were freshmen, all the basketball players with all their WAC rings on, and that's what I wanted most.
Yeah.
But I thought the WAC championship had slipped through our hands at that point.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the thing that's special about this team is what happened next and how we're reacting.
Yes.
Yeah, bounce back.
That's where we showed some character, I think.
Can we go to the next game?
Yeah, we certainly can.
Forward now. We're done with that.
And it was San Diego State in the Sun Bowl. You guys obviously knew that you had to win your last two games to even have a shot at getting into one of the 17 bowl games back then. And
we had no shot at that point. I mean, because there was only 17
right.
Bowl games at the time. But the thing that year was there was very few teams that had a bunch of wins, and that's when they called us and said, listen, I know you lost, but there's only like 4 or 5 teams that have 9 wins this year. And you and Southern Miss, if you win this weekend, you'll have 9 wins, and so will Southern Miss. So if you win this weekend, we'll get you to the Independence Bowl. So that's what I told the team. I said, all of a sudden we get this information. I said, if we win, we're in. This was what we were talking about that weekend. We win, we're in. And Pat, remember, we went no huddle the whole game. Scored, I think, almost every time we had the game. Plus, as I said, Troy Refferty intercepted the pass on the 2-yard line right back, but we just dominated play on that particular game. And then we didn't get the invitation at the end of the day. It was supposed to be the next day, but again, they held us off for the next week. And if Appalachian State would have not gotten beaten by Wake Forest, then we wouldn't have went to a bowl game. So we were really fortunate. We had so many wins that just wasn't a lot of teams in that position that year.
Fellas, it had to be a relief, though. I mean, after the Wyoming game, you really took it out on San Diego State. 58-7 was the final score, and it had to be a good feeling to bounce back immediately like that.
But that shows you. I mean, at the outset, we talked about the chemistry on this football team, and how guys didn't want to let other guys down. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know for a fact, but I'm sure some guys feel like they let their teammates and their coaches down at Wyoming. And then the comeback was imminent. I mean, at that point, we're fighting for each other. And that's the chemistry of that football team. And you can say it now, 30-something years later, you can say it. I don't know if we saw it back then, but that's what it was.
Yeah, I don't think we could have identified it back then other than we ain't quitting.
Yeah. And I think that's a game that's a great indicator of just how far the program itself had come, because from what I had heard back in the day when things started to go south, people were like, oh man, here we go. And then
here we go again
down from that. But we put it behind us and we just said, hey, the only way to make it better is to take it out on somebody else.
Right.
Yep.
And we didn't know all that stuff that Coach Stoll is talking about the bowl stuff. I don't remember that stuff. I don't remember.
He didn't know any of that.
I think he kept it from
any of that. I didn't care. I just felt like the next guy is going to take an ass whooping. And I mean, you're next up. You get the ass whooping.
I don't think I remember knowing about the bowl game until we were playing Air Force. I don't remember knowing about it before San Diego State.
Right.
Well, we knew going into the Air Force game, this was our last game.
Yeah,
this was it. We were done. There was no tomorrows at that point.
And we were treating it like a bowl game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that's why we wore those pumpkin uniforms.
Yes. Playing in the day, we played in the day, and we had orange uniforms on, and it was the best day. It was just an incredible moment in time.
It was.
And of course, Doug, the challenge defensively, Doug and Terry is the triple option. I think Air Force ran 86 plays in that game and only 5 were passes. Talk about the mindset you've got to have defensively against a team like Air Force.
I mean, it's again, Terry will I'm sure agree with me. Like the coaching for the Wishbone, like I've had my son play against Wishbone teams and other people I've talked to, but I mean, Church just was a genius with how to defend the Wishbone, and every 11 guys had to do their job or it could actually go for a touchdown. And but he just, I mean, again, film study, and it helped me from playing them 2 years prior to that year. Like I had it down by the third year. Like, it was kind of weird at first and then the second year, but then by then I think Terry also, like that whole team with Church being there a few years, like we really, really knew how to play against it. And I think, they just had no answers for us because we knew how to defend it,
Absolutely. It was like you said,
That was the most difficult.
86 place total.
We didn't see any other Wishbone stuff, and like I said, Coach Church did a great job defending that and getting people to understand it. But it was always very difficult because of the way they played, and they kept the clock moving, and they were chopping, and the whole Wishbone thing, and so it's one of the most difficult teams you played each year.
Well, Coach, I remember that drill, like Church and those guys would set up. I mean, they had freshmen jumping at our knees like the whole week, like they would just chop block us. But, we could have me and Ken could have got hurt or something, but they just kept, saying, hey, you have to know how to do this.
Did they have like 4-foot splits done?
That's what they always cut all the time,
Yeah, no.
They cut from the backside, and they also all the lead, the lead blockers from the Wishbone, they were always doing those loaded, what they call loads, where the back comes flying at your knees, so that's because they were always undersized. They were never the same size as everybody else. They were like 6'2", 270-pound guys rather than the 300, but they come really low and they'd be chopping all the time, and that's very difficult to defend against, especially.
But you should be used to that. You practiced against me.
When did you say 6'2" is small? What's wrong with that? What do you mean they were little?
Well, football, you're only 6 foot, so I'm sure you're.
Yeah, hey. You could have been a pilot, Poof.
What
pilot of what?
A blimp.
Yeah, I just remember that right before half, that last drive was crucial going in. We end up setting up Chris Jackie for that field goal right before halftime of that game, and that crossing route that Pat missed me on in the Hawaii game, he hit me in that Air Force game right before half as we went in, and I think that gave us the momentum. Yeah, Jackie kicked that field goal, and I think that gave us the momentum going in the second half on that game.
Hey, Terry, do you remember how many tackles you had in that game?
Yes, I had 31. Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, goodness.
I think I had 20 at halftime.
Oh my gosh.
How
tired were you after that one?
Yeah.
I couldn't even celebrate. I was exhausted. I was totally
exhausted. We got to stop telling these stories, y'all.
But it's like I think you were the only one not like accounted for blocking wise. Like the free safety had to make all the time. Everybody did their job. And safety was left.
Hey, Doug, you said he was the 11th man that Church was talking about.
I'm saying, like him and the quarterback were the only ones left.
Nobody blocking you.
Yeah. Hey, D. Dallas was very fast. I think he ran a 4.3 in the 40.
Yeah, he was tough. He was shifty too. He could stop and start too.
He reminded me of Patrick Haggerty.
Shortly after
young Pat Haggerty.
Shortly after the game ended, you guys remember where Ricky Lopez was found?
On the top of the uprights.
On the goalpost, yeah.
He was sitting on the goalpost on the north end of the stadium. How'd you get up there?
He was like a ringtail monkey.
Oh my God.
Freaking lemur.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think we threw him up there. He only weighed 100 pounds.
Bob, when did you actually find out? Was it right after that game that you were going to go to the Independence Bowl?
Yeah, well, during the fourth quarter, again, after talking to the bowl representative that week talking about, he resigned from the bowl because they had changed. They told us they were going to do it, and then all of a sudden they were going to go the easy way and get some, tickets that they, went with Wake Forest. We were just trying to focus on winning and trying to win 10 games. And, but in the middle of the fourth quarter, I can't remember who it was. Somebody came running up and said, Appalachian State and Wake Forest State tied.
Yep.
And so basically speaking, they were in a real, politically and everything else about, they would have to really invite us now. And so they wanted to send a representative down. I said, don't send them down. Don't send them down. We're upset. But then they called right away as we came off the field and invited us. So, and again, I remember talking to
Coach.
You came in and asked us.
Yeah, you asked the whole.
You came in and said, I got to go ask my team if they still want to come and play. And you came in and said, you guys want to go bowl.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's how I remember.
it was at the fourth quarter of the game.
Go ahead and mention that again, would you, please?
So, Coach, the way we recall it is you got the phone call. We were all hugging each other. And I got to tell you, I'm emotional. We're crying. This is it. There's no tomorrows. We're done. And you come out of the coach's locker room and say, I just got a call from the Independence Bowl, and I got to ask my team if they want to still come and play. And you asked us, do you want to go? And I got to tell you, there wasn't one person in there that didn't want to go. Maybe Rappin' Nut didn't want to go. But there was a tomorrow, and we were going to be together for another month.
Yeah, I think
everybody did cheers and went crazy. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, now I remember.
That was one of the.
Yeah. I think your words were, does anybody want to go to a bowl game? And it just erupted in the locker room.
Arnie, what was your emotion?
Oh my gosh, that exactly the way Poof is describing it. I mean, there was that sense of this was the last game we were going to play together, and to get that last opportunity to get invited to the bowl game, that was awesome.
Terry, what was your emotion?
Terry was recovering.
I was recovering, exactly, but I was excited because I didn't want it to end. That feeling that we felt, I didn't want it to end, so I wanted to continue. So that's when
Pat, for you,
pick back up again when we get one.
Pat, what was the emotion for you?
Yeah, I mean, just jubilation. That I went back to, as Poof said, Mike Ward, God rest his soul. When he recruited me, he said, all these things that were going to happen. We're going to go to the first bowl game forever at UTEP. And as soon as we got that thing, I just remember thinking, he called it like 2 years before. He said, this is what we're building. This is what we're going toward. It just felt like, we had gotten to the place where we always worked to get. And
he had that. Remember that chart in the weight room? It was like a thermostat or something.
Yeah.
It was our goals.
Yeah.
It was just long wait time for us. I just remember we having to wait so long. I mean, even after the Air Force game, we still didn't even know, whether or not we were going to be able to go, to this bowl game, because it's like Wake Forest and Appalachian State, they were tied, and we kind of had to wait for that game to end to see who was, because if I recall, it was like if Appalachian State won, if they won, then we could go. So it was like here we are rooting for App State to win that game, and by the time that we ended ours, they were tied. So we still didn't even know. And we go back to the locker room with this uncertainty of whether or not we were going to go to a bowl game, go to this bowl game that we've been desperately trying to get to. And then Bob Costello comes in, after the game and gives us the news after the App State Wake Forest game was over.
So it would be 2 days before Christmas that the Miners would play their first bowl game in 21 years, 21 long years. Shreveport, Louisiana. Before we talk about the game, what about the bowl experience, fellas? What do you remember about the bowl experience?
My damn watch never worked.
Mine either.
A lot of crawfish. right?
The
Polo sweaters.
crawfish and sucking the heads.
What about the, hey,
Abe's Country Kitchen.
what about the
Remember,
charter?
Abe's Country Kitchen was the place we went.
Hey,
Yeah.
what about the charter plane that took 8 hours to take off?
Oh my God.
We went to the
I
airport
remember
bar.
that, Doug.
That
I'm a
thing
kid,
was
yeah.
loud, wasn't it?
Coach Stoll wouldn't let me on the plane. He's like, "You don't settle down, you're not going."
I think a few of you defensive guys almost didn't make it on that flight.
We were in the bar for
Something
8
was wrong
hours.
with the plane before we even took off. There was something wrong with the plane before we even got there. It was a delay with the plane. It's raining when we're supposed to take off, and something's wrong with the damn
Something with
plane,
the
and we had to
door or
wait.
something.
Yeah.
Guys, remember, we went to the airport bar, and then Stoll was like, "Dude, you don't settle down, you're not getting on the plane."
Oh, T-Lander was teed off. Coach T was not happy.
Then I slept
Yeah.
the whole way, and everybody was mad because I guess we sat on the ground for a while. I don't remember any of that. And then also I remember the first place I saw, they had all those crawdads in front of us. They like rushed us to this restaurant. We were all late, and then I was just like ready to throw up. There were all these like look like cockroaches in front of me.
That was the first night I met Brett Favre, who was their quarterback, and Dave Flores and I, quarterbacks at UTEP, we had watched film of him. We're like, whoa, this guy's unbelievable. And then we meet him, and he's like, and we're like, man, we were watching film. You're great. And he's like, you think so? You really think so? And I was like laughing. I'm like, this guy's the biggest hick
He's a dork.
I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my life.
Couldn't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And of course, as it turns out,
More yards than he did.
yeah. As it turns out, he wasn't the story of the game. It was
The kickoff
defensive
return, the punt
James
return.
Henry. Yeah, it was James Henry who returned 2 punts for touchdowns.
Well, when Brett was retiring for the 14th time or whatever it was from the NFL, ESPN Classic would show that game a bunch, and I got to watch it with
No
my
way.
kids.
Get
And-
out of here.
And
'Cause I've never seen the game.
if you look at the third quarter statistics, it tells the story of the game. In the third quarter,
Yeah.
Southern Miss had 26 yards of total offense and had scored 21 points in
Well,
the third
listen,
quarter.
I'm not trying to pin this on anybody, but we did miss 3 field goals that day.
Fucking Jackie.
And you know
Anything to
why?
take the spotlight
You know
of
why?
my failure
You know what
away,
he did?
I'm for
You
it.
know what he did wrong? And every Friday we would always do these certain kicks, right? He'd go all the way back, and the opposite 45. And that Friday he said, "I'm good." After like kicking it from the 20, I go, "Chris, no, we got to keep going." He goes, "No, I'm good." I go, "Chris, we got to keep going." He goes, "No, I'm good." Well, I said to him after the game, I think, "Were you good?" Good, right? You were good.
Fellas,
He
Let him-
broke the
Let
Fuji.
him down easy, Pooh.
it wasn't exactly the best night for the
No.
game. It was.
Well, let's edit that out, Tice.
Huh?
Let's not bring that up.
Yeah.
John, hold on,
Just
John.
because he goes on to become an NFL superstar, front cover page of Sports Illustrated, Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame,
In the first half, John, offensively, we had our way. We were able to do what we wanted to do, and we were actually
Put in the
leading.
end zone.
Hell yeah. I mean, we were leading. If I recall, we were leading at the half.
Well,
In the
fuck.
second half, that damn punt returner, they opened up right off the rip. He returns one,
Yeah,
to open
yeah.
up the third quarter, and then he hit another one,
And then the third touchdown, our center snapped it over the punter's head. I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember?
Yep.
Who's that?
Is James still on here?
I wasn't a punter.
It
I
wasn't
wasn't
Spady.
I wasn't a deep snapper.
It was
Was
Don
that
Black.
DB? Was
It was
that
Don
DB?
Black.
Oh, it's Don Black.
What?
Yeah, DB was our long snapper. That may be his only error, though.
That may be his only error of his career.
Yeah, it was
Hey,
a
I'm
rough
just-
game.
I'm just curious, how many of you guys were on the field for those 2 punt returns? How many of you guys? Probably none of you, right?
Yeah, that was a start.
Terry missed the tackle. Terry missed the tackle.
I was getting ready to go in the game. Snap.
There's no special teams guys on this call.
Terry was still recovering from the Air Force game.
Terry still recovering.
Clarence, you weren't on punt coverage?
No,
You're not gonna claim it.
yeah.
Hey, John, you know what else was weird about that? Favre only played on like third down. If it was like a passing down, he'd come in. Like they had a read option guy on first and second, and then
Really?
Yeah,
it was
Brett
third
didn't
and
play
long.
most of the game.
Yeah, it was third and long. You'd see this kid come in. You're like, watch the pass. You know, like
The way I remember, John, it wasn't Brett Favre wasn't the difference maker. It was their damn special teams that hurt us. You know, our defense had him in check.
Pat had 2 touchdowns and had like 100 yards more than Brett, didn't he? But they both had 2 touchdowns. But I think I was thinking that Pat had like I can't remember what it was, but look at the stats. I know they had quite a few more yards than Brett Favre, but I think they both had some passes.
Pat, you remember?
I think Pat's stats were better than his stats. You know,
I remember it differently. I remember.
I had my share, Pat. Thank you.
You had 9 catches, Reg.
I remember being sharp that day. I'll tell you that.
20 yards. Yeah.
You know,
I do remember though how that Pat, you took it personally. We lost that game. After the game, you were pretty upset with yourself. You felt like you had taken it on your shoulders and had let everybody down, and I don't think that's the case.
No, not at all.
You know, Favre was only a sophomore back then, and heck, we didn't even know how to pronounce his name correctly back then.
I don't think anybody still does.
Never be any good. He'd never be any good.
No, I don't. Let me share this. Brett Favre and I went into the same draft that year, and we played together in the Senior Bowl. I didn't talk as much shit to him as I should have, because I'm still reeling about that game. I let it ride since we were basically playing together. But yeah, we played in that Senior Bowl together. But you know, Pat, you did your thing in that Independence Bowl. I don't give a damn what nobody say. You outplayed Brett Favre.
Absolutely.
I'll take it.
Here.
I get better every year in my own mind, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
My
Bob,
stats get better.
Yeah.
you coached a long time. Was this the most special group you ever coached?
Yeah, it certainly was one of the top 2 for sure. I mean, it was a great group because they came so far over a period of time over the 3 years that they become very special, and it was quite a group of characters. There was a lot of fun, but they really worked hard. They were focused. They came together, and they had purpose. You know, they came to play. They really did. And they worked in the off season, did everything they were supposed to do. Now, again, we had a lot of fun along the way, and of course, our coaches. We had some fantastic coaches, Coach Reed and Coach Cutter and Mo. And, you know, again, 3 of those guys ended up being head coaches in the NFL. So we had a great staff, and those guys really came together. I think they had a good base when we came in. We added some special players that filled the holes, and they just got better. They really worked hard. They wanted to be good. So it was certainly a special team. It was a special year, that's for sure. And you know, as coaches, we always talk about too. When I talk to Dirk and Coach Reed and stuff, we always talk about that group because they were all special. They really were, and they really had purpose, and they did what they no matter what happened, they always recovered. They always gathered and they moved forward, and that was the fun part. It really was.
Pat, I know that you speak with at least Coach Cutter quite a bit, even still, right?
Yeah, we stay in touch. You know, he's
retired this last year, and he lives in Boise. He actually was when UTEP beat Boise this year, they fired the offensive coordinator, and Dirk took over.
Yeah.
And the rest of the year, they only lost 1 game. He took over as the offensive coordinator because his son was playing on the team as a wide receiver. So he was just kind of helping out, just going to practice and
wow.
stuff. And when that happened, they made him the coordinator, and they won all but the last game, I think.
Wow.
As the coordinator. So I talk to him all the time. I talk to all those guys. I went to practice and saw Coach Reed and Coach Tobe, Coach Flagel. They're still with the Chiefs. And so just saw them about a month ago at the OTAs that they have. And Mo Lattimore, he's stuck with their coach there at Kansas State, Snyder, until he retired, and just had a great finish in the career. He just retired a year ago. So we had a great staff and a great group of players who really, came together and focused, and everybody's done well too. It's a good group of guys. I mean, it's a good group of guys, So it was fun. It was fun to be with them. Now, the first year, Proof Falls can tell you, maybe we had a few challenges the first year with the guys. There were a few challenges there, but they all came together. But it was a very special group of guys. Certainly my favorite, for sure.
Pat, you still talk to Dirk quite a bit, correct?
Yeah, we stayed in touch over the years, and I was going to say, he told me he retired, and then I turned on TV one day, and they're showing him in the booth calling plays for Boise State, and I'm like, I texted him after the game, like, dude, you told me you were retired. What are you doing? It's a long story. Yeah, but it's funny because like Dirk's only, like 6 or 7 years older than us, the senior guys.
Yeah.
So as you get older, we're kind of almost, we feel like we're the same age a little bit. And so, but I think that helped with that staff and getting, they were so young and hungry, and we kind of mirrored that and kind of fed off that too. And it was, it's amazing to see how well all those coaches.
I paid them so much money when they were there at UTEP. that Coach Cutter and Coach Reed, when I got Coach Cutter, they were at San Francisco State, and they were selling donuts at lunchtime for raising money for their football team.
Hey, Poof, James, having
Yes.
played specifically for Coach Reed, what's it been like to follow the accomplishments that obviously he's enjoyed in his career?
I'm so proud of him and blessed to have been part of those years with him, and watching him grow both as a coach and around the waist has been one of my best things. I enjoy every week watching him
Around the waist.
Yeah, he's obviously, I'm blessed that he still enjoys hearing from me and takes my texts and calls, and we have some laughs. But what an incredible man. He's one of those pivotal people in my life that I'd say he gave me something so special in '87. And I think we became really good friends over something that I may have had a little problem with one day, where Coach Stoll handed me off to him for a week. And we spent a lot of time together those mornings running the Sun Bowl and stuff. But I'm truly blessed, and I'm so happy for him. I mean, he's had the achievements. He's heading for Canton, and that's what I said. I go, when they won this last Super Bowl, I go, they better start digging up enough copper to get your bust in there.
Yeah.
Him and both Tobe have just done an incredible job. Arguably best staff in the country.
James, your
Without a doubt.
thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Proof just said about Coach Reed. Coach Reed he's an amazing coach. He was an amazing person. We all had different things that we dealt with. Proof had whatever, I had whatever. And what would happen is you'd walk in his office and you sit down and talk about whatever that thing was, and it would morph itself into a football conversation, a study session, and then your mind was not on your problems anymore. I mean, he had a knack to just whatever it is that you're dealing with, just kind of make you feel comfortable about it. This will pass. What about this front? What about the way these guys play, that kind of thing? And it was comfortable. He's a great man, and I love playing for him. I use it to this day. I tell guys all the time, listen, I'm one step from greatness. I coach football the way Andy Reid taught me to coach football.
Absolutely.
Fellas, in closing, I think Miner fans would all like to know where your life has taken you and what you're doing now and about your families. So let's go down the line individually. Arnie, we'll start with you.
So I've got 3 kids, been married for 32 years. My boys are 28 and 25. My oldest is a youth pastor in Houston. My middle son is a reporter in Austin. And then my daughter is 20 and she's a sophomore at Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches. I work for Buckner International, which is the oldest children's charity west of the Mississippi. It's a 143-year-old adoption, foster care, family strengthening organization that I do all the fundraising for.
Amazing.
Reggie
John,
Barrett.
can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, sure.
If Arnie's done.
Yeah.
I have a family thing I have to get to.
Go ahead.
Would you mind if I
Yeah, go ahead.
guys, I'm sorry.
Sure. You bet.
I moved to California 33 years ago. I met my wife here. We raised our family. I have 3 great children. My oldest, who's just turned 28, she had her college career at University of Louisville, played softball, got her master's there. My son, who will be 26 next month, he followed in our footsteps, played at UTEP, got his master's there. He actually just got what's called a WSET designation. He just finished a year in Paris. And he's a sommelier, and he's going to be a master of wine. He's going to work in a winery as a general manager in Washington State next month. My youngest will be 23 in a few days, and she's incredible. She keeps me fired up. But I can't thank you guys enough for being those pivotal people in my life as well. You gave me all the strength and the fortitude to make all the hard choices I had to make in life. I've been an insurance broker now for 33 years, have my own business. I've been blessed that my children are happy and healthy. And my wife and I have been married 29 years.
Awesome.
And proud to be your friend. Proud to call you gentlemen my friends and brothers.
That's awesome.
Same here, Poof.
Reggie Barrett.
I love you guys. I have to
Reggie
go.
Barrett.
Take care,
See you
cousin.
guys in El Paso.
Yeah.
Reggie, you're next.
Okay. I live in Florida. I live in Tampa, Florida now. When I played my last game in El Paso, I ended up I got drafted. I was fortunate enough to get drafted in the 3rd round by the Detroit Lions back in '91. I was there for 3 years, and then I went through a trade to Seattle into my 4th year. Had a ugly knee injury there that kind of shut it down for me, and that's where my life began. And I met my wife and been married for almost 30 years now. I got 3 boys. My oldest son graduated, played college football, and my middle son played college ball. I got a young one. Both of them, my oldest 2 graduated from college, and I got a young one now that's still in college now that's working on his final degree. Me and my wife, we do real estate. I also do insurance. I work with insurance with Allstate. Man, everything is good. Everything is good. So I can go on and on. But and I got my first grandbaby.
Nice.
And she's about to be 2. She's about to be 2 in September, and everything's good. I can't even. I don't even know where to start. I just want to. If Coach Stoll is still on here, I just want to say thank you, Coach, for just giving a young, hungry guy like me from Corpus Christi, a small town in Corpus Christi, South Texas, an opportunity, to come play Division I football in El Paso, to meet all these guys that are on this call. And it was just a grand time for me. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And I had an awesome time. And I really, really appreciate it. And, made some good friends and had some awesome teammates. And it's been a huge experience. And I shared my experience with my sons. I coached them in youth football for years. They were able to go on to play Division I college football. They love it. I mean, it's been a joy for me, and I really appreciate it.
Clarence,
You're a great one. That's for sure.
Clarence CA.
All right, over to me. So I am in Dallas now. I have three children. Like Arnie, been married 32 years myself. Oldest son who's just relocated to California. He's 29. I've got a daughter that lives in Austin's 26 and actually started her college career at UTEP.
Awesome.
She was a gold digger, and I don't think they call them that anymore. The UTEP dancers now. But she was a dancer there for her freshman year, and then transferred to Texas State to finish out her college. And then my youngest is 23, and she's a senior at UT Dallas. It's been I'm very proud of how they've come up, and I didn't have success like Reggie in the NFL and some of the others. Went to camp with the Giants, and then I went to the World League of American Football. We call that the We Laugh because that's how they paid us. So I played with the Raleigh-Durham Skyhawks and the London Monarchs for a little bit, and then figured out hey, I'm married. I got to go out here and earn a living and get a job. But now I'm a VP of HR with JP Morgan Chase. My wife also works for JP Morgan Chase in another line of business. We're doing well, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out in El Paso in September.
Hell yeah.
Pat
You in
Hager.
Dallas, CA?
Yeah, I am.
My brother's in Dallas. One of my homeboys in Dallas. I'll be coming through Dallas. I'm down there a lot, so.
No, we
Man,
got to
call.
connect. We got to connect.
I live in the Dallas area too.
Dude,
Oh,
I'll be
okay.
in Houston. I'll be in Houston this weekend. My mom lives in Houston. I got a buddy that lives in Dallas, so I'm in Texas a lot.
A receiver reunion. That's
There
for
we go.
sure. Pat Haggerty.
Yeah, so after I was done at UTEP, I was on the practice squad with the Broncos for a couple of years. Played long enough to know that I wasn't going to be a starter in the NFL for 10, 11 years, but went on and I got a master's degree in English. And I've been, for my work, I'm a writer. I'm a professional writer, so I write for video games. I'm working for an international mobile game company right now. And I've been doing that for quite a while. I've been married for 29 years. It'll be 30 next year.
Awesome.
I've got two kids. One, my daughter's going to be a junior at Smith College, and she plays volleyball. She's as tall as me. And then my son's going to be a junior in high school. He plays golf. He's staying away from the contact sports, which is fine. But yeah, it's been great to catch up with you guys and just those formative times. And it's funny how much we remember and how some things we remember the same and some are differently, but
Yeah.
we all have that same vibe about how great it was, that year. And it's been fun to reminisce.
Absolutely.
Harry Walker.
Okay. Well, I have three kids as well. My oldest is 30 years old. She graduated from high school here in El Paso, and then she went to New Mexico State of all schools. And she graduated from there, and she's a graphic designer. She's married to a mechanical engineer. They live in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank God they're doing well. I have a 15-year-old son who is quite an athlete. Y'all might be hearing about. He's a sophomore at Eastwood High School here in El Paso. I still live here in El Paso.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And I have an 11-year-old son that plays quarterback, Pat, and he's pretty athletic too. So y'all might be hearing about him. So I'm
Awesome.
retired twice. I'm retired from the government 2 different times. So what I do now is I coach youth sports. I have 2 football teams and I have 2 basketball teams. So that keeps me busy, and it allows me to give back because somebody was in my path when I was younger, and I never forgot that. And so I always reach back and give back whatever I can to them, just passing on knowledge. So I just like to keep it moving forward. That's my thing.
For sure.
That's great.
Awesome.
James Spady.
You're
muted, James. You're muted. There you go.
Sorry about that, y'all. Hey, I wish I could retire like you, Terry. I would retire twice also. I've been coaching football, college football for 30 years, and I'm tired. I'm tired. And so I'd love to retire, but it's been a good life. It's been an amazing life. And we living down here in Tallahassee now. I'm close to Florida A&M University.
Yeah.
I got, me and Barbara have been married for 28 years. Actually 30 if you count the 2 years we lived together, but don't tell my mother.
Or the pastor who married you.
Or the pastor who married me, exactly. But me and Barbara have 2 kids. I have 3 total. My daughter Adine lives in San Antonio. She's a paraprofessional at an elementary school. Very proud of her. She's 32. And then we have Jalen, who's 23, and Mason, who's 19. And they're still here. Jalen is playing for the Orlando Guardians of the XFL. And we are extremely proud of him. And if I were retired, I could watch every game. The problem is I can't get to some of the games because I have games of my own. And so we're very proud of him. His mom wants to follow him everywhere he goes, and so do I. I had the fortune. I was blessed to be able to coach him the last 3 years of his college career. We had a COVID year and then his junior and senior year. And fellas, there's nothing like it. If you can coach your kids, I recommend it. I highly recommend it. So I live a very blessed life. I am tired, though. I'm ready to go ahead and retire. And I haven't made a UTEP game, and I can't remember when. I would love to. But at the end of the day, fellas, this has been amazing. I haven't had a chance to, touch base with a lot of you guys, and this is great to see y'all. Terry was one of my really close friends after we played, and I haven't laid eyes on you in a while, and I'm thrilled. Like right now, I'm getting choked up because I just feel like all you guys are extended family. Y'all are brothers to me, and I just remember that when I'm sitting here talking to y'all, I'm remembering that. And I feel good about tonight. My life is going to get blessed even more after this, just because of y'all.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Doug Morgan.
Man, I can't follow that. Jeez. No, it's funny you guys are talking about like some of you guys playing in the NFL. It's like I remember Tolbert. I was just telling the story. My friend and Tolbert was doing the pro day in front of me, and he runs his 40, and the whole drill stopped. Everybody got around him, and I had to wait for like 10 minutes till it was my turn. And I go ahead, I run past the same dudes. I look back, they're all like looking at the next guy. And I was like, all right, I think I'm done. So that was the end of my football. But I moved back to Pittsburgh. I got in the IT industry back when it was just kind of booming at the beginning. So I've been really lucky. I've been with a couple different IT companies, but I've been pretty successful, and I'm living in Pittsburgh, and I have 2 amazing kids. My daughter's 24. She played college tennis at Connecticut College, and she's working here in Pittsburgh, and she's like loving my life and everything to me. Just saw her this weekend. We went to a concert together. Told me it was the best night of her life. So I mean, we were really close. And then my son's still playing football. He was a quarterback at VMI. It's sort of like UTEP. Right? So he's sort of like UTEP, man. Like they were the worst team in the country for 20. It's the weirdest thing. Like he had the same experience. Like, and they won 4 games, and then they won their conference, and they played James Madison in the FCS playoffs, and he threw for more yards than the James Madison guy. So it's like, but now he just transferred. He's at Shepherd University. The quarterback there last year is at the Bears, Tyson Badgett. He was in the combine last year. So he wants to light it up there. He's got 2 years of eligibility left. He wants to play there, possibly transfer or get a look. So yeah, he's 6'3.5", 215. Guys got to look him up next year.
Big boy.
Yeah, everything's good. I got a beautiful girl sitting next to me here.
Hi.
Hello.
That's Maggie. So awesome person. But yeah, everything, like you said, Reggie, everything's good. God's good.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Bob
sir.
Stoll, you have the last word.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to our reunion. That's going to be so much fun. Again, what a great group of guys who were so successful and everything that they did. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting together. And I hope Dirk can come. I know Coach Hofer is coming for sure.
All right, good.
I think Coach Cutter is going to come unless he's going to might be have an opportunity to be an analyst at Fox on Fox TV channel. He will find that out pretty soon. If he doesn't do that, he's coming for sure. Anyway, we're looking forward to it. This has been fun listening to everybody. You're all doing really, really well. So proud of you guys. You really are. So, and it's not hard to follow my future. You know, I was coach for 25 years and athletic director for 20. And my daughter lives in St. Louis and she works for Nestle. You know, she covers all you ever see the big dog shows in New York stuff. She does all that. My son's a head golf pro at a country club here, where we live. And they both have 2 kids each. So, in fact, my son, his son, my grandson, he set the 7th grade high jump record this year. He high jumped 5'6". He's only 5'8". So he set that record and just missed 5'8". So anyway, the 4 grandkids and 2 kids and living in Columbia, Missouri. So at the same golf club that my son works at. So anyhow, I look forward to everybody, seeing everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody shows up and brings a lot of people with you. Bring all your parents and all your wives and everybody. It'll be a lot of fun.
Fellas, thank you. It's been great fun. Congratulations on everything that you've accomplished, and certainly you will forever be in the hearts and minds of all El Pasoans and UTEP football fans for that magical 1988 season. And to those of you watching, hope you enjoyed it, and excuse me for the vocal problems, and hope you enjoyed this UTEP athletics presentation.
Tysher, thank you and Darby for putting this together, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, fun, fellas. I hope you guys will be back with us on Labor Day weekend. That'll be fun.
Yep, I'll be there Thursday through Sunday. So
I missed the first one, John, but we got plans to be there this time around. So it's a pleasure for me to be able to get back down there. I haven't been in El Paso since I left. And I'm just happy to be able to, I'm just happy to be able to get back down there. My wife is coming with me. And so we're flying in, I think, either Thursday or Friday. So we're looking to have a good time.
Yep, I'll be
get to Miami on Sunday. I'll be there also.
Yeah.
Right,
and my niece runs track out at UTEP. She's a sophomore out there, so.
Oh, okay.
Trying to keep the tradition going out there.
Proud of all you guys. Thank you, fellas.
Guys, great to see you.
This
good
was
to see everybody.
Nice seeing you guys.
Take care.
We'll see y'all.
All right.